Hello and welcome to Gen Z on Leadership. I'm Gabriel Gary, the host, and today I have on the show retired Marine Corps Brigadier General Peter Collins. Collins served as a Marine officer for 30 years as a Judge's Advocate General. Collins has his bachelor's in management from the University of Mississippi, his Juris Doctor from the University of Memphis, and his LLM Master's of Law from Tulane University. He has extensive experience in international law and has worked all over the world, including spending a lot of time in the Pacific region in countries like Japan, South Korea, and Sri Lanka, just to list a few. Hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did when I was recording it. He has a lot of insightful leadership experience and advice. Without further ado, please enjoy. Thank you so much, Mr. Collins, for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here with you today, Gabe.
Yeah, and also I want to mention that you were a Culver Military Academy grad, and I was just wondering, what first interested you in leadership, and then you chose to pursue career in military. But what was your first, spark or catalyst into leadership?
I think the first spark was when I was an eighth grader at Culver, and I look up to the first classman as leading the troop or the inaugural parade, and I said, that's something I want to achieve. I want to get there. And so that kind of sparked my interest in leadership and what it takes to be a leader. So I would say I started in eighth grade, and then I've maintained that interest the rest of my life. And even today, if I see something on leadership, I'm going to pick it up and read it. Part of the process of continuing to learn, even though I'm no longer on active duty.
Yeah. And then I just want to segue this question into why did you choose specifically the Marine Corps? And then you stayed at the Marine Corps for a long time, but initially what was your draw to joining the Marines?
After I graduated from Culver, I went to the prep school for West Point for a year. And I decided I did not want to go to West Point. I did not want to go through another plebe system. I wanted to have a normal college life in warm weather. So that's why I ended up going to Ole Miss. And when I was at Ole Miss, I walked into the student union, and a Marine captain was there and said, "Hey, you want to join the Marine Corps and be a pilot?" Well, I had my pilot's license. I said, "Yeah, I'll join the Marine Corps." Well, the time my freshman year to my senior year, my eyes went. I couldn't be a naval flight officer. I'd already gone through officer candidate school. And the guy said, "You got two choices. You can either stay in the Marine Corps or get out."
Yeah.
I said, "How about if I stay in the Marine Corps and become a lawyer?" And he said, "Okay, fine, go to law school." So I was commissioned and then went on to law school. Initially, my plan was to do 3 years and get out and go practice law. But I was having too much fun. I really enjoyed being with Marines. And one thing led to another, and next thing I know, I'm looking at 30 years.
Yeah. And you found out about your eyesight so your senior year, you said?
Actually, it was probably my sophomore year in college.
Okay.
And I knew my eyes were going, and then I thought I could wiggle my way into the backseat of a jet, and that failed. So then I ended up going all the way to the law program. Why did I pick the Marine Corps? Frankly, I liked the size of it, the fact that you're given a lot of responsibility at a young age. The uniforms are definitely a hit. I mean, who around 20 years old doesn't want to walk around in a cool uniform?
Oh, yeah.
And all their duty stations were pretty much in the South, where it was warm weather.
That's an appeal.
That would be probably my motivating factor right there.
Yeah.
Now, once I got in, I stayed in really because of the mission of the Marine Corps, the people, the young Marines I was actually had the honor and privilege to lead, the opportunities to see the world.
Yeah.
Also the satisfaction of serving your country and your fellow man for the greater good, making an impact. Those are all the reasons I stayed in. Absolutely.
And I want to shift this into what you did in the Marine Corps. You were a JAG, so Judge's Advocate General. And could you explain, for our audience, because that term can be thrown around, and not many people know what a JAG is or what a JAG does. So could you give a little bit of background on on what your role was and what you did as a JAG?
Okay, it depends upon the service, what you mean by JAG.
Mm,
In the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, they have a Judge Advocate General Corps, and it's commanded by a general or an admiral. And all the lawyers assigned to that service, like the Army or the Navy, are part of the Judge Advocate General Corps. They're staff officers.
mm,
Well, the Marine Corps is roughly 175,000. Of that 175,000, and I'm just doing this off the top of my head, about 10,000 are officers, and let's say 500 or 600, maybe 700 are lawyers. Well, the Marine Corps does not have a Judge Advocate General Corps. They have Marines who happen to be legally trained as lawyers.
right.
So yes, they're judge advocates, but not part of a Judge Advocate General Corps. And
Mm,
why is that a big difference? In the Marine, you're a Marine first who happens to be a lawyer. You're a Marine who happens to be a pilot, but
mm,
the emphasis is on being a Marine. And
right.
so even though you're a lawyer, you could do non-lawyer stuff and be assigned non-lawyer billets. And that
Mm,
happened to me, and it's happened to several of my friends. So it's a little bit different picture on that. You go through the same training as all Marines. You go to the officer chemist school, which is 12 weeks or 10 weeks.
right.
You then go on to the basic school, which is 6 months long, where you learn basically what's it like to be a Marine, from leadership to infantry tactics to weapon systems to wearing a uniform. And then once you complete that, then you go on to the Naval Justice School for 3 months, then to your first duty station. As a Marine lawyer, you're usually assigned as a prosecutor or defense attorney at first,
Mm,
maybe doing legal assistance, wills, powers of attorney, leases, those type of things. And then as you progress through your career, those jobs will change. For example, you may become a military justice officer where you're managing the caseload for the different trial counsels, or a assistant to a lawyer to help advise a commanding general. It just depends on where you are.
mm. And
So you have a diverse career that way.
I was just talking to a former JAG who served in the Navy, and he discussed like how every Marine's a rifleman. Were there any like MOSs the different that like appealed to you when you were going through your training, or were you hard set on, I mean, becoming a military lawyer?
Well, at that point, after I'd gone to law school and passed the bar exam, I was
Mm,
set on becoming a lawyer. And now the motivation for me is when I was in law school, if I bombed out of law school, I was going to go back to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps would assign me a MOS.
yeah,
So I could have been a supply officer or something. But
right.
so my goal, I was motivated to get to law school. And then once I finished law school, then I wanted to work my trade a little bit. So I was happy to be a judge advocate in the Marine Corps. But you're right, every Marine is a rifleman. We'd spend 2 weeks a year on the rifle range, pistol
Mm,
range, gas chambers, water qualifications, physical fitness tests every 6 months.
mhm.
I mean, so yes, you're a Marine first who happens to be a lawyer. With the Navy, you're a lawyer who happens to be a Navy officer.
Yeah. And so you served in the Marine Corps for 30 years, I saw, on your experience. And what were some of if you had some stories or like favorite experiences, because you served in Sri Lanka in the 1990s, is that correct?
Basically, I was in Sri Lanka for a training session,
Hmm.
probably 2003. I went over to do some training. It wasn't the long. I was stationed in Japan at the time. I was in Japan from 2000 to 2006 with my family. We
Hmm.
spent 3 years up in the mainland, up near Hiroshima, and then down 3 years in Okinawa before we came back in 2006.
Yeah. And just to finish my question here, but I'm just wondering, like, what are some experiences that you enjoyed through like your time, and then what were some like challenging leadership aspects during your career throughout all your, I mean, different station places?
Probably the most enjoyable duty station was Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni, Japan. It's approximately 40 miles from Hiroshima. and we spent 3 years there. For the last year there, I was the executive officer of the air station. So I worked with Colonel Dare, and we helped to run the air station with F-18s and all sorts of stuff. And it was also a joint base with the Japanese, so we had a lot of interaction with the Japanese and the Japanese admiral. That was a lot of fun. Nice thing about that was far away from all the senior leadership in the Marine Corps. We're basically afraid and alone by ourselves out in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, went down to Okinawa. Had really some great bosses to work for there, great assignments. We did the tsunami relief in 2005, where we moved our office from Okinawa down to Thailand. We were in Thailand providing relief operations in Banda Aceh, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Thailand. From the tsunami that hit in 2005 on the 26th, or 2004. But each duty station I was assigned to was unique in itself. The challenges were different based on the tour that we were located or what was going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all enjoyable, challenging. I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I just really had a great time.
Yeah. And I want to segue this into the next question I have for you. What was it like to serve in so many of these different countries, and how was like adapting to the new cultures, especially with like your relief work across the Pacific region? What was that like?
You have to realize where you're located and adapt to that culture. If you're serving in the Middle East, it's one thing. If you're serving in Japan, it's you have to adapt to their culture and do not come across as the arrogant American or the ugly American.
Mm-hmm.
Try to go along with what they're trying to do. Be sympathetic to their issues. Listen to them. Working with the Japanese, they have certain norms they expect, and politeness and all that. And if you show it back to them in respect, frankly, if you show anybody respect, they're going to respect back usually and work with you,
Mm-hmm.
even if you disagree. And there are times when I was in Iwakuni that the Japanese labor union and Pete Collins did not see eye to eye, but we came to a happy medium where I could live with it, they could live with it, and we moved on from there.
Mm-hmm. So you would say the biggest takeaway of serving in so many different cultures and countries is respect, or is that there's like one trait that you could say you picked up and now you use in your everyday life? What would that be from serving so many countries?
I think respect for others, respect for their culture,
Mm-hmm.
respect of who they are. Try to understand where they're coming from. I think that's the key to open up any type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if they know that you respect them, they'll go a long way.
Got it. Thank you for that. Want to shift more to as like your leadership development throughout your life, and I'm just wondering, is there a book or author that's been formative to you as a leader throughout your career?
I would say that there's a couple things. One, the Commandant of the Marine Corps puts out a reading list every year,
Mm-hmm.
and every Marine, from the most junior Marine to most senior, required to read and read and read. I found that reading different biographies of different individuals through history, such as USS Grant's biography, to Chaos by General Mattis, to what's some other books I was thinking of. What Now, Lieutenant by General Butch Neal. How Ike Led by Susan Eisenhower is another one. Any book you pick up, first of all, I think you have to be interested in the individual,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll just skim through the book. But if you're interested in an individual or the period of time, read the book, and you'll pick up nuggets from, Army generals, presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, Reagan, Bush, whoever. Truman, you're going to pick up nuggets of leadership and how they led, and you just put that in your hip pockets. Okay, I like this trait. I didn't like this trait. I mean, and have I worked for some bad leaders? Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I learned a lot from them, a lot on not what to do. For example, that failure to set the example, which as a leader, you have to set the example for others to follow.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for the. I didn't know that about the Marine Corps that they, because I knew about the reading list, but I didn't know they made every soldier read those books.
yeah, every Marine is supposed to continue on with well, the Marine Corps, and like the other service, but the Marine Corps stresses professional military education. I
Yeah.
mean, all the time. And it's, you have to take certain courses, you have to read. And like I said, the commandant comes up with his reading list, and
Yeah.
you're expected to read. I mean, it's part of it's a learning organization. A lot of people think Marines are nothing but gun-toting knuckle draggers. No, they're some of the most intelligent folks around. And in fact, the head of schools at Culver is a Marine.
Yeah. Dr. Bird.
Yep.
Yes, he
So
is. Yeah, and along with that, I just wanted to ask, this is just a follow-up to this question, is like throughout your career, serving under other officers, or even working with enlisted Marines, do you have any role models specifically that really were like inspired change in you during your career, and what aspects did you notice in them?
probably the one guy I admire the most is General Peter Pace. General Pace, I worked for him for 3 years when I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And he was intellectual, but he would relate to I don't want to say the dumbest guy in the room, but he would ask the questions that everyone understood. He wouldn't try to say, "Hey, I'm the smartest guy around,"
Hmm.
even though everybody knew he was. But he would just, and he would be compassionate, caring, and he would always have pearls of wisdom. One time he told the staff, "Never pass up the opportunity to keep your mouth shut," and that stuck with me. Or another time, a two-star and I got into a little tit for tat, and I won. But then his response to the comments were, "Pete, never let a good joke interfere with a promising career." I mean, those pearls
Yeah.
of wisdom, and that's have stuck with me. And I still hear from him time to time, and I'll correspond with him. But he inspired leadership. He inspired the ethos that make every Marine proud. For example, there's a saying in the Marine Corps: "Officers eat last." Well, that's true, because you take care of your junior Marines. You always take care of your junior Marines. And
Yeah.
if the chow runs out and you're last in line, oh well. It's just setting an example and making sure that the folks underneath you are taken care of. And Pace lived that every day.
Yeah, that's something that Culver's trying to implement. I don't know if you know Simon Sinek's book, probably it's Leaders Eat Last, and he wrote it just because he had conversation with Marine officers, and that encounter sparked that. So at Culver, we're trying to implement the Leaders Eat Last philosophy, and
It,
it's been
it makes
good.
total sense. I mean,
Yeah.
even to this day, my wife will have family and friends over,
Hmm.
and we'll have a hay set up or something, and I'll make sure I just can't help myself. I have to be the last one to go through the line. It's just
Hmm.
ingrained in me, and yeah, I'll
Yeah.
push everyone ahead. It's just, yeah. But you're right. Leaders do eat last, and it helps you realize who's important. And the leader may be responsible for the organization, but it's the folks below you that get these things done.
Hmm. And I do have a follow-up for that. As you said, the Leaders Eat Last philosophy has stuck with you. Is there any other like habits that you developed at Culver, even going back, but through your military like education that stick with you, whether it be like keeping your room extra clean, or if you have something to share on that, I'd be interested.
Well, I can tell you right now, I make my bed every day. There's certain things and I still make a square corner, and
Hmm.
my closet is still lined up in a certain order, and my hangers aren't in a certain way. I fix it. I mean, it just, old habits are hard to die. I think as a leader, you need to do a self-assessment on who you are. And you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And be willing to work to your strengths and ask for help on your weaknesses. For example, I am not, it's going to sound strange, a detail-oriented individual. 80% is about as max is where I want to get. But if it has to be detailed, I'm going to ask folks to help me along that way, get the other 20%.
Mm-hmm.
It's just who I am. Spelling, I'm lousy at it. I see words in a paragraph that no one else will see. I see them. I'll read them. And they're right there as clear as your face on the screen today. But someone else read it and that word's missing. Or ED is missing.
Yeah.
And so I always had folks, hey, take a look at this, read it over. You won't offend me. What did I miss?
Right.
And so be willing to, not be perfect. And I've seen other folks who, afraid to ask and caught them in trouble. The other thing is listen to your organization, listen to your subordinates. Just because they're subordinates doesn't mean they have bad ideas. They may actually have a great idea, or listen to what they have to say, and they may actually save your skin.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me on numerous occasions. And then when it comes to your folks, set the example, train them, give them the authority to act with the understanding that you're responsible for everything that organization does or fails to do. And if they fail, it's on you initially, especially if you haven't trained them properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then if someone else inside the organization starts questioning it, you take the hit for it. That's part of being a leader.
Yeah.
It's my fault, whatever. Even though you didn't do it, it's still your fault because you're the leader.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I want to shift now to the last question, which I ask all my guests. But if you had like 60 seconds for a message that you wanted to give to young people, because this podcast is called Gen Z on Leadership, and like young people interested in careers in the military or law, or those just wanting to be effective leaders in their own community, what would you basically break it down to?
I would tell them to be true to yourself. I mean, be true, know who you are. The legal field, there's a lot of opportunities. The thing about the legal field, it teaches you how to think differently. You take a look at a project or an issue, you'd see it differently than, say, someone who doesn't have that legal training. It's not about chasing a dollar. It's about serving your fellow man, making the world a better place. It's about being happy and enjoying what you're doing. I enjoyed being a Marine. I enjoyed being around Marines. I enjoyed every moment of it. Yeah, there were some challenges, but yeah, you could either say they're challenges or you can call them challenging opportunities. Take a look at those as opportunities. You fail, you pick yourself up, you get back on the horse. We've all come off the horse before. You get back on it and continue to ride.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mr. Collins, for coming on the show. It was great to talk. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that insightful episode with retired Brigadier General, United States Marine Corps, Peter Collins. I know I enjoyed our conversation and learned a lot of his insightful leadership experiences and stories throughout his career. If you want to learn more about him, his platform, I have his website linked down below and also his bio in the description of this episode. Additionally, if you want to reach out to suggest a guest or you possibly want to be a guest on the podcast, feel free to check out the contact info down below. As always, I try to post one episode a month, and thank you so much for tuning in.